Hey, welcome to Plant It Where the Sun Don't Shine, a podcast for people looking for plant ideas that work well in shadier spots of the garden without relying on much overused hosta. Do I hate hostas? No, not really, but I do like lots of other shade-loving plants and want to share some of them with you so you don't have to just rely on hostas when you're gardening in shadier locations. I'm Dr. Dennis. These are some of my favorites that you can plant where the sun don't shine. Okay, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Doug. I live in Ontario, and I just wanted to give I'm just here with Dennis today. Dennis and I are long-term friends, and we've known each other for probably 25, well, 30, close to 30 years now. So coming up. So I just, but we're both into gardening, and so wanted to be able to be a guest here and just enjoy this talk with Dennis about our favorite native plants.
Doug, I'm so glad that you're here. This is amazing. First collaboration on Plant It Where the Sun Don't Shine. So love the fact that this is happening and happening with you, especially given our history and both of our love for gardening, both of our loves for gardening. I'm not sure where.
That's good.
Nonetheless, the format for today for folks who are just tuning in to episode 9, I think this is, maybe it's episode 10, I forget. But we're going to talk about our favorite shade-loving native plants. And we are talking about native plants that are native to Canada, and we'll get into a little bit of those details as we unpack our favorites. We've each chosen our top 3 favorites, and we're going to share those and talk back and forth about them. These are going blind. We're going into this blind in that we haven't shared our list of plants with each other in advance. So for listeners, that's the format. That's what we're doing. And I'm going to hand it to you because you're the guest. You can tell me what your first favorite shade-loving native plant is and give us your description and why you like it.
Sure. Okay. So, can I go three, two, one? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So my third is Jack in the Pulpit, one that's available throughout the East. It was the first plant I think I ever put in my garden. I actually grew it from seed. Super easy to grow from seed. Native name for that is Erosamia trifolium. And if you know Jack in the Pulpit, it's a very distinctive flower, which is part of the joy of it. And also, I found that in my own garden, I started with 2 plants. Now I have about 7 or 10 in our in the one after 2 years of planting those in our garden. So very easy to grow. I tried to choose plants that have a good flower and have some seasonal interest. So there's actually a leaf that stays above ground for the rest of the season after the spring. It blooms in the spring, so usually around May in Ontario. Yeah.
Love it. I love Jack in the Pulpit. I have childhood memories of like being a Boy Scout and going out for like nature
Yeah,
hikes in the forest and seeing Jack in the Pulpits and being blown away by like their unique shape and structure. So yeah, I love that one.
absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, my first one is bloodroot, Sanguinaria
Oh,
canadensis. Native to all of Eastern Canada, so or many places in Canada, but especially in Eastern Canada, so Nova Scotia through Manitoba. Zones 3 through 8 for folks who track that sort of thing. I love it because it has this beautiful and sizable white flower
yeah.
that really stands out, especially in shady spots, right? Like that white distinction between the green leaves and dark spots in a garden, for me is a real showstopper. It has these really unique roundish leaves that are sort of notched out, so you get that nice structure throughout the rest of the season, even when the flower isn't there. And now they're actually being hybridized, and you can get like doubles and these fancy ones. But honestly, I like the native. I like the one that's
Yes.
just the simple form, right? It
Yeah.
stands. It's in the poppy family, so I think it actually reproduces pretty readily. I've never tried to grow it from seed, but I know folks do, and it seems like it's an easy one that way. Grows about a foot tall, and indigenous folks used to use it as a dye plant.
Yeah.
So yeah, like really cool because it has that. That's where the name comes from, right? Bloodroot. So
That's
it has
right.
that really rich color. So that's my first one. Back
It
over
was
to
on my list as well, Dennis. That one. I don't have it on the top 3, but it was on like I was like, should I do bloodroot? Yeah, fantastic plant.
you.
Next one is my number 2 is sharp lobed hepatica. That's Hepatica aquitiloba. I love that one because it's the first flower you see in the spring. It's usually comes up in April, up in Ontario, maybe even in late March sometimes. And the stem has a really hairy stem, so it kind of reminds me of something that would be dressed for spring with like a woolly coat. That's kind of why it really sticks out to me as a favorite. The other beautiful thing about it is sometimes you'll get the leaves from the year before that remain. And then and it will flower, and then those leaves will die, and then you'll get a fresh bunch of leaves, and they'll stay right through, even through the winter. So it's quite a beautiful little plant that way. So yeah,
What color are the flowers on that one? Are they
they can vary from white to purple to like a lavender purple kind of mauvey kind of feel. Yeah, the ones that we have here sometimes you even get blue. There's occasional blue ones, so it's just a range of color, depending on I think site conditions and genetics. But yeah. And it's just the name is comes from liver, the hepatica liver, so it's kind of a liver shaped leaf. So that's the other way to remember it. And it actually has kind of a purpley color. Usually in the spring, the leaf is kind of aged and it's more purpley. The purple colors are coming out and less green. So then bright green through the summer. So yeah,
I just got onto hepatica about a year ago. It's one that I had in our previous garden. We moved over the past year, and yeah, really cool.
yeah.
Although I did have a hybridized version, I didn't have a native one. But, cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. My second is ostrich fern. I couldn't do
Mm,
a native plant episode and do one on shade gardens without mentioning at least one fern. I'm a
yeah.
sucker for ferns. I love them. And ostrich fern, or sometimes called shuttlecock fern, are a personal favorite just because they're so big. Like they get that stately
Absolutely.
vase shape up to like even 4 feet tall in the right conditions. I've heard them growing as tall as 4 feet. So usually in the 2 to 3 foot range, if they're kept moist, they're the happiest. They will spread and form a colony. They get that cool, almost beak shape poking out of the ground when they're not in leaf, when they're about to emerge. So I really love them. It's Matu Matuiccia Stephiopteris, I think is the way
I
you
just
say
find the fern names are so hard. I don't know. There's something about the fern Latin
they
name.
are.
Just
Yeah,
tough.
they're
Yeah.
totally difficult.
Yeah.
Matuiccia Strepithops, anyway, whatever. Zone 3 through 7, they're found actually across Canada. So even though, as you mentioned, you're in Ontario, I'm in Nova Scotia in Zone 6A. These range zones 3 through 7. They reproduce by spore, which is the really cool thing about ferns is that they're such a unique plant in that they've been around forever and they have this spore reproduction method, which are really cool. I've tried to grow some ferns from spores, never had success yet, but just
Wow.
looking forward to them trying to spread in my current garden because I do have a few ostrich ferns out there. Um,
Ostrich ferns also spread by underground rhizomes, do they not? Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
how they can actually end up forming a colony if they're in a happy spot, right? If they're getting a good level of moisture and they're just able to sort of set, they will continue to reproduce and stretch through rhizome as well as spores. The other thing to note is that the fiddleheads are edible, right? So like, yeah,
Absolutely.
can't beat that. They're delicious.
And the other thing to know about the fiddleheads too is you have to boil them or steam them before you eat them because they're poisonous otherwise. So yeah, you
Yeah,
can't eat them
exactly.
raw. Yeah, they're beautiful though. That is a great one. I have that one in my garden as well. Lovely plant. Yeah. And great for the shade. It does so well in the shade. Yeah.
I mean, they can handle sun. They can handle
Yeah.
some sun. They won't be as happy, but they are like, a native to shadier spots. So.
That's right. That's right. And then widely available too, like widely available across Canada. So it's good. Um, my number one was foam flower.
Oh,
So
nice.
foam flower is Tiarella cordifolia. And that's one that I've known for years. And it's just I like it for a number of reasons. The flowers are very unique raceme shape. And so they've got that I think that's where the name foam comes because it's very delicate, but it's a number of those little delicate flowers on the stalk, and kind of the flower is very interesting if you look to a macro level. It's quite detailed and sharp and quite like fine detail. It's very beautiful. The other thing I like about it is it has a variety of leaf shapes. There's kind of generally a kind of a maple leaf sort of shape, but then the veins often the one I have in my garden has purple on the veins, and that will last throughout the year. The other thing is great about that when it does spread by runners, so it will go make a big colony, just like the ostrich ferns will. These ones are on the surface, more like a strawberry plant. That's one that I looked for a long time, and I got a plant last year, and I'm hoping to get more as it goes. But these ones are all the other thing about these plants, they're all available at times through native plant sources, but also particularly the hepatic on the foam flower. I haven't found that they're very available, so you kind of have to watch for them. In order to find them, but they're both amazing specimens. Yeah, to have in your garden.
Tiarella is one that I don't have, but I will be adding. I think they're really, really cool as well.
Yeah,
And that the changes that you get, or the differences that you get, sorry, on the leaves in particular, I think is
yeah,
really cool about them. Yeah, very cool.
yeah, fantastic.
Cool. My last one, which is not a native to where I live, but is a native to where I grew up, and which is partly why I put it on the list because you're in Ontario and it's a native to Ontario. Actually, it's an endangered species, so people shouldn't be going out and looking for this one in the wild. But there are now hybridized versions that you can get, and I do have some hybridized ones. Is wood poppy. So Styloforum phylum, zones 4 through 9. There are 3 native patches that are actually known in Ontario around the London area. So they do still exist in the wild, even though they are endangered. I think that that makes them super cool, but of course, don't be going out and picking them. They should be just purchased from a commercial source, and they are available through commercial sources now. That's what I have. So zones 4 through 9, nice, simple yellow flower. Usually comes out late spring, early summer is when they usually
Yeah.
start to flower. They get a really cool seed pod because they are in the pappy family, the poppy. They get that cool seed pod that has like hairs on it as well. And the seed is actually spread by ants. So if you do decide to put wood poppy in your shade garden, it is worth noting that they will spring up kind of everywhere because ants will just take the seed and distribute them throughout your garden. But that's kind of a joy, right? You can actually just move them if they're not in a spot that you like.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so 3 locations found in the wild in Ontario, sort of around London. Um, Grows about a foot and a half, roughly, maybe
Yeah.
2 feet tall, and gets like a really cool leaf that's like cut out, lacy looking, like long leaves that have notches and etched out, not etched out, notched out sort of pattern on them. They're quite a cool one. Usually about
Yeah.
a foot wide, but they again will establish themselves and spread out through your garden. So
Yeah.
that's my third.
I also have that. I love that one as well. I have a couple in my garden, and I found I live in that area, southwestern Ontario, and so we have access to the native versions. And slowly I've added them, but I've had them in I think all the gardens I've had over the last 20 years. I've had those wood poppies because they're just such a beautiful plant. And this year, what I noticed more than anything is the length of time they bloom too. Those beautiful yellow. So the native ones have 4 petals, which is one way of telling them different from the celandine poppy, which is the non-native one. Yeah, and those they bloom a number of times. Like ours have been going since April, and I noticed there's still a bloom there today. So it's like in June. So that's end of June. So that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Like I think the bloom length alone makes them worth keeping in a garden. But I
Yeah.
too have had them probably in every garden I've had for the past 25 years or something. Like somewhere along the way I got onto them and yeah, I
Yeah.
love them. I didn't get them from a commercial grower. I got them from someone who gave me one
Oh,
originally.
nice.
So I assume that mine are native ones and not, I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know where they originally came from. All that to say, yeah, the distinction between celandine and wood poppies is one to keep in mind because oftentimes the two get confused. But wood
Yeah.
poppy is the one that we're talking about, and it's just
Yeah. Lovely. Yeah. Lovely plant. Yeah. Yeah.
cool.
It's good that native plants are it's kind of a new idea. I actually decided when me and my partner decided when we were going to put them on our property, we'd do the whole property in native plants. So I just did the tally last week. We have 110 species here that we put in about 3 years. So um
Wow.
and it's just we've got there's lots of ways you can go with native plants and lots of variety. And the idea for us is just we call it habitat building instead of landscaping. So just a different philosophy, but you can do whatever level you want. You can do a few of them or as many as you want, and that's the beauty of native plants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely agree. I think it's so important, especially at this time in our historic place of life,
Yeah,
that we're dealing with like such difficulties with the onset of climate change.
yeah,
And we will only face more. So the idea of being able to ensure that we can create habitat, that we not only protect the plants that are native to here, but that we also have buffers for insects and other species that need access to things as the changes are occurring. Such a vital thing, whether, as you said, whether you do it solely because that's the way you want to garden, or whether you're doing a mix of native and other species. Such an important thing, right? So really
yeah,
appreciate the perspective. Yeah.
yeah. Well, thanks, Dennis. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate this opportunity to talk about these plants. They're close to both of our hearts.
Yeah, Doug, appreciate it so much. Thank you so much for taking time and thinking through this with me and being the first collaboration. I love it. And
Yeah,
hopefully we can find another time to bring you back and we can talk about some more things.
that'd be great. All right. Thanks, Dennis.
Brilliant. Thanks for listening. Thanks also goes to Sherry Donegan, Jonathan Scott, and of course, Ian Jefferson for brainstorming podcast name ideas with me. Credit goes to Sherry on that one. If you have thoughts or ideas you'd like to share, please email me at plantitwherethesundon'tshine@gmail.com. That's one word without the apostrophe. You can also follow the show on Instagram at plantitwherethesundon'tshine with Dr. Dennis. Hosting is provided by Spotify for podcasters. Until next time, thanks for listening. Go plant it where the sun don't shine.